So, here we are. RENNSPORT just went into early access, and with that it's coming closer to a full release. Now, I have personally played RENNSPORT since the closest alpha, and although the progress has been great, I do have quite a few problems with the current state. Here I will go over the ones I would find very important for a full release. It doesn't mean I hate RENNSPORT, but it's never bad to look at the state of things by going into the facts. Talking about facts, there are a few facts to get out of the way first. First off, I have to enclose that I do work with RENNSPORT doing moderating and customer support. They also do get feedback from me directly and I do give those, but I also want to show the outside world the current state of things. This is also where I will go into the most controversial topic, the physics engine. Matter of fact is, RENNSPORT owns a license for the physics engine they use. The rest they added on to, made themselves, or they edited because they have got the right to do so. Even though the CEO stated that it was built from the ground up, they went over to a licensed physics engine. And although they didn't state that later on that they changed that, they also didn't steal anything. In my opinion, they handled it wrong and should have marketed it that the basis of the physics engine was becoming an already established, as that is actually a very good selling point in my eyes. But in the end, they didn't. Having to rectify it, but for the people who still think it is stolen from rFactor 2, it is not. On another note, ESL is not RENNSPORT. ESL only uses RENNSPORT as their sim racing platform. Don't get that mixed up. And with this out of the way, let's crack on. And of course, we start off with the most important part of a racing simulator, at least in my eyes, the physics. As I just mentioned, this is based on the ISI physics engine, which although is a very good base to work on, is also very difficult to get right. We have seen this in rFactor 2 as well, and now here I personally did too. The progress, however, is insanely quick, and a lot gets learned very quickly and improved upon. The work and effort that is put into this is paying off, which I'm very happy about. Currently, there are a few problems still left though. The main issue that people seem to struggle with right now is the cold tires and how you have to really keep them up to temperature. Which is hard as they cool down a little bit too much on the straights. This makes it very difficult for newcomers, or even people who have a driving style that is more under the limit but still are skilled drivers. This is very important to fix in my eyes, as this is present on both the GT3s and the BMW M2CS, which are the most popular cars. This brings me to my last big point with the physics. This is simply that the old content needs updating to the new tire model. Only the GT3s and the M2CS have gotten this. And all the content needs to get up to this standard before release. With this, I will also ask for the open setups to come, at least partly. And they should be available for people to play with. You can't have it locked away at full release, and it takes away pretty much the most important aspect of sim racing in my eyes. Definitely if you're going into the more competitive stuff. All in all, the physics have a good base in my opinion, and I do believe they are a strong point right now. So, now to the game modes. It's of course great to have physics that are good, but you also need a place to make use of it. In RENNSPORT, you can do time trials, single player practice, or official online races. Time trials simply being a leaderboard per combination, which is good, but could be much more. There are features like being able to see the ghost of someone else, and you can turn that one off as well, being able to see the sector times. Well, not directly the sector times, but you can at least see if you're quicker than the other guy. Overall, this is just a feature that is good to have though, and not the go-to for people as long it isn't any special. But a thing you can always do no matter the time of day. Single player is just practice, and I don't know if it's worth focusing on that right now, as AI and stuff to me sounds like a lot of work for something that usually isn't great anyways in racing simulators. Multiplayer is the one thing that they have been actively working on. They got both performance and safety rating, which in my eyes will not be hard to iron out the kinks of. But it does need to be done. Safety rating is currently not shown, for example, and quite hard to gain. as the incident points are quite harsh. And with that, I will go a bit deeper into the problems with it right now. My biggest problem with the current way of online contests running is that there is no ladder system whatsoever. The rating only divides you into the right split with likely rated drivers, but safety rating at the moment doesn't do anything. There need to be rookie races and races for non-rookies to filter out the poor driving. There is nothing to progress in other than the splits you're racing in, which perfectly translates into my next point. ESL R1. It is currently the main esports event of RENNSPORT. The only one currently even, which shouldn't have to be a problem, but currently it is an invitational only event. The racing and all might be great, but there is nothing for the non-selected few to race for. You can't qualify into it. There's no R2, for example, where you can prove that you should be in there. Nothing. At this point, I would not rely on ESL to make that for you if I was RENNSPORT. But start making your own esports series as well. Something that just invites people to drive. And you don't need a €1 million prize pool for that. You can always start off with something small and slowly grow it. This would also require the UI to show the progression you can do. Because how it is right now, it is not acceptable. Also, adding the sporting code and the basic racing rules to the UI, that is really needed. People need to know which rules are actually being used. With this, I think it would make people drive more and make it have an esports scene with, in my opinion, very good physics. R1 already shows that the race can be absolutely amazing, so utilize that potential. Utilizing that potential does mean that in-server stuff needs to be good as well. Right now there's too much potential for trolling, and although rookie servers would keep those people out of the higher rate series, it would be better to not give them a chance at all. First off, the starting procedures need to be troll free. Ghost cars on the starting grid so nobody can push them into a false start. If people jump very early and are taking the piss, instantly disqualify them. It's not hard. If you are more than a car length out of the box before the green falls, you are taking the piss. Simple as. Same goes for the rolling start. If someone is out of position too far, disqualify them. And definitely don't let them trigger the green flag. This is very much an issue right now and needs to be dealt with. Only after this you can start making the penalties give the right amount of penalty points. Let's keep it at that. Because right now they are overly harsh to combat those trolls. This means that right now it's currently very hard not to get a 10-second penalty in a 30-minute race. And I kind of just want to be able to race. Of course, it would be best to have a controlled environment, but there needs to be a way to do it. Leaks were in the game in the previous UI, but didn't make it yet into the new one. This has to come back, but in a much better way. Points need to be able to deal with multiple races, for example. Stuff needs to be easily accessible in a sensible way. Show, for example, currently running leagues, first upcoming, and all that kind of stuff. But what is going to be more important is letting people make their own servers so they can set up their own leagues without the need of such a system. I know currently there are users testing this, but it is currently limited to 12 cars and no splits are possible. And of course, it's not available to everyone. This issue also brings me to liveries. Let us make custom liveries. I know Race Room doesn't have it either, but with how much a car costs, which I will come back to after this, I at least expect to be able to use my own livery. Of course, it needs moderation and all that stuff, but we really need it for any league to actually use RENNSPORT. And this brings me, as I mentioned, to the monetization. Overall, the costs are very low. It's free to enter with free rotating cars, with all the tracks but the Nordschleife being free as well, which is really good. And it gives you a lot to do without spending a penny. The way the game is currently monetized is by buying cars. I mean, as I said, that sounds really good. And actually, it is very good if you look at the total price. Like overall, it costs you €15 to do an entire race series. I mean, it is less than 15 euros for a car. So with buying that car, you can participate in all but the Northlife races, as I mentioned. But you will always be spending 15 euros on a car. This is simply due to the interesting way they implemented their in-game currency. I don't have the exact numbers right now, so we'll probably add them post-edit, but it all boils down to this. A car, livery, or anything which is not the founder spec, because that one you can buy with real money, is a certain amount of RENNSPORT currency. So you think, just get that amount of RENNSPORT currency and buy the right car. Well, they decided that it would be a great idea to only being able to purchase the RENNSPORT currency in packs, which means you're always spending 15 euros on a car, whether it if it is or isn't that much for that car. Although overall the price is low, you are making people pay more money than they are already spending, which is a very sketchy business practice, and it won't make people happy. Just because it succeeded in other games doesn't mean it's a good idea to use it in yours. Use it for special items if you want, which you have the choice to simply not use, but keep it away from the actual main content. So, before I'm going to end this video, I do want a quick mention to a few things that I want to get out as well. First off, the removal of VR, virtual reality, which is very weird in my opinion. Even if it's broken, just let it be there for people that do find a use for it. You can always state that improvements on it will be delayed a bit, will come later, but completely removing it sounds to me like work that isn't needed. It's just active work preventing people to use something that was in there. With virtual reality, I do think that needs to be in a full release, but I also do think it's time to put in triple screen support. Although I moved away from triples myself, there are still quite a few people that use them, and it's quite actually really common in sim racing. I mean, I know there are a few tech hurdles, but I mean, decisions have to be made at some point. So, for the last point, UDP telemetry needs to be in there as well. Let's be real, a lot of sim racing software uses it, and even hardware uses it, and it's quite common that people use the UDP telemetry for stuff. So yeah, just to round this up, although this seemed all very negative, there's a lot of potential for RENNSPORT to use, which I do hope they do before the full release. Right now, there's nothing that really stands out that will make people want to jump over, which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that it is not good enough to make people come over. I'm really curious, however, what 2025 will bring to the table and what the focus is going to be. I hope it will be a focus per part rather than an unfocused let's try to do everything approach. Right now, there are quite a few features in RENNSPORT that checked off a checklist of things that they want, but they aren't worked out enough to be considered good. This is what I hope will change, and with that we will have a great sim racing product in the future. And with that, I came to the end of this video. I'm still hopeful, and I hope you guys are as well. I know some of you won't be, but let's just keep an eye on this for the upcoming months and see where this brings us. And I hope I see you in the next video.